Aloisi can score this goal, Australia will be there.
Are you sure?
I'm trying to do my maths. I can hardly.
4-2.
I can hardly.
He wins it for us, John.
Here's Aloisi for a place in the World Cup.
It is arguably the greatest moment in Australia's distinguished sporting history. November 16, 2005 is the day Australia was reunited with the international football family. The road to Germany is a story of triumph in the face of adversity, culminating in a dramatic finale against Uruguay. The qualification campaign effectively began in 2003, following a government-led administrative overhaul that saw billionaire businessman Frank Lowy installed as chairman of what would become known as Football Federation Australia. Former rugby administrator John O'Neill was lured to become his right-hand man.
I don't have a magic wand, but I think in the next 3 years we can really move down the path of sustained success for the game of football in this country.
It was a welcome change for the sleeping giant of Australian sport.
I don't mean this in a critical way because I'm just about to take over soccer, but we used to say if ever they get their act together, we're in big trouble.
The FFA had three main objectives: establish a viable domestic league, gain entry into the Asian Football Confederation, and qualify for the World Cup. The World Cup quest took Australia on a cruise through the Pacific, with 12 nations bidding to become the champion of the region, known as the Oceania Football Confederation. Traditional giants, the Socceroos and New Zealand, were seeded, meaning they avoided the first stage. The remaining 10 teams were divided into two groups. The Solomon Islands, Tahiti, Vanuatu and Fiji advanced to the second phase, where the real challenge awaited them. As the Socceroos gathered to launch their World Cup campaign, there were several notable absentees. The Australian squad is made up of players plying their trade all over the globe, particularly in Western Europe, but not all were required. Stage 2 of qualifying through Oceania was considered a relatively straightforward assignment, with the top 2 teams through to the final playoff. Australia opened the round-robin tournament with a crucial win against its most dangerous rival, New Zealand, at Hindmarsh Stadium. Italian-based star Marco Bresciano scored the only goal minutes before half-time. That brought a huge sigh of relief for the near-capacity crowd, as the home side had spent most of the opening period camped out in the Kiwis' half, but with precious little to show for it.
I thought we created a lot of chances, which was good, but we didn't finish them, which was bad. And that was probably the most disappointing thing for me was our poor finishing.
Despite going down, the narrow margin gave New Zealand reason to feel confident of getting another shot at the Socceroos later that year.
Very pleasing in a lot of aspects. Obviously disappointed that we've lost the game, and that's going to put us under a little bit of pressure going into the remaining 4 games. What we've got to do is make sure we approach the next 4 games properly to give ourselves the opportunity to play what is obviously going to be Australia in the playoffs.
Today we've got 3 points, that's all that counts, and we look forward to the next game.
2 days later, Australia faced Tahiti at the same venue in front of a much smaller home crowd. The fans stayed away, far from excited about the prospect of seeing a one-sided affair. goals from Cahill, Skoko, Stajovski, Drilic and Chipperfield contributed to a 9-0 whitewash.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I think what I was happy with was really the intensity which the players maintained for 90 minutes. Sometimes in games like that, when you get a few up, you can tend to drop.
Australia then faced a resolute Fijian side at the Marden Sports Complex. Frank Farina fielded some of his younger stars, including Adrian Madaski, who scored after just 6 minutes. Some comic goalkeeping helped, but the Fijian team refused to be overwhelmed by their opposition.
I said it at the press conference before this tournament, there's a likelihood that there's going to be an upset or two in this tournament. I have no doubt the gap is closing, but on any given day, anything's likely to happen.
Something did happen in the 19th minute. Laisiasa Gatarua caught the Australian defenders off guard and equalised. But Tim Cahill restored Australia's advantage after a tense 25 minutes. Cahill finished with a hat-trick and the game ended with a 6-1 scoreline.
I would doubt very much whether there's any upset going to happen against Australia. I think they'd have learned a lot from tonight. I think the island countries are just very quietly confident that they can keep New Zealand very honest in every game that's played against them.
Vanuatu did more than that, beating New Zealand 4-2.
Obviously Vanuatu have got a sniff to finish second, so it'll be a tough one for us, but I'm sure the players will be up for it.
Vanuatu's captain, goalkeeper David Chilia, led by example, producing a superb performance to continually frustrate the Australian attack. Up until the 25th minute, Chilia and his team, who arrived in Adelaide without tracksuits or boots, managed to defy all the odds. Spanish-based striker John Aloisi finally broke through to score his first goal of the campaign in the city of his birth, and Australia never looked back. Two goals from Aloisi and one from Brett Emerton rounded off a 3-0 victory to mark Farina's 50th match in charge of the national team.
We want to win the games. We want to win all the games here. It's expected of us. It was expected when we came into it that we would win every game, and we'll be going in against the Solomon Islands to win.
Australia would finish top of the section. The question was, could the Solomon Islands end New Zealand's reign as the region's second force? The Solomons only needed to avoid defeat against the Socceroos to make history and claim a spot in the final Oceania playoff. It was Commons Manapi who took the initiative just before half-time. 5 minutes into the second period, a wounded Socceroos outfit, which had made a maximum 3 changes during the break, hit back through the ever-reliable Tim Cahill. 2 minutes later, Brett Emerton found himself unmarked to make it 2-1, but that wasn't quite the end of a remarkable story. The Solomons survived long enough to create history, with Commons Manapi firing home past Kalat to secure the draw it needed and a place in the third and penultimate stage of qualifying. In truth, it could have even been worse for Australia. The visitors twice had good chances to take all 3 points near the end, but the draw was enough to send the team, ranked 145 in the world, through to a further meeting with the Aussies for the right to call themselves the best in the region. Manapi was acclaimed a hero, but for Australia, this was a dismal way to end the week in Adelaide. Despite finishing undefeated at the top of the table, the real revelation was the outstanding performance of the Solomon Islands.
We come up against a team tonight who really was their World Cup final. It's simple as that. And they genuinely have 3 or 4 players who can really punish you if you're not on your game. It shows that you can't take anyone lightly. You've got to, whether you're full-time professionals or amateurs, part-timers, when you get out there, you've got to match the enthusiasm, the energy, the running, the everything. And it showed that they were well organised, the capability of scoring goals. So I thought they did very, very well. Made it hard for us.
I mean, they've been terrific because I haven't been very nice to them. And I got told, they don't like you shouting at them. And I went, well, listen, my job finishes tomorrow or the next day or whatever. And I just said, look, you don't have to like me. We've got to win games.
As the 6 competing nations headed for home, the New Zealanders had a few questions they wanted answering.
For the Solomons to be 1-0 up against Australia, to go 2-2, you just have to wonder. I haven't talked to anybody about it, but it's in the back of your mind, isn't it, to say, gee, 2-2 with Australia.
You guys saw the game out there tonight. You think we were trying?
It's going to be a long time between us having the opportunity to qualify for the World Cup. I guess we've got to get back and reflect and do some soul searching and see where we go from here. But yeah, it's a tough time.
However, the Islanders couldn't repeat those heroics in the final of the Oceania Nations Cup, held in October 2004. Australia qualified for the Confederations Cup by recording 2 convincing wins to claim the regional title 11-1 on aggregate. That success was followed by a series of internationals, which achieved expected results. But the team's performances raised concerns. Farina's men may not be ready to face real serious opposition. At the Confederations Cup in June 2005, these fears were realised. The Socceroos conceded a total of 10 goals in losing all 3 matches against host nation Germany, Argentina and Tunisia.
Really, nothing's gone for you at all in this tournament, has it?
It hasn't, but maybe that's a blessing in disguise. Maybe all the luck's coming.
I think we may have been judged a little bit harshly. We were up against a home nation in Germany. It's an opening game of a major tournament. We were up against probably the 2nd best team in the world in Argentina, and we performed quite well against them. The only downside was the game against Tunisia, when Frankie and myself decided to make numerous changes to a side that was fatigued after the first 2 games.
From our first 2 games, what we have shown is that we can compete at the highest level, but there's still a lot of learning to be done.
We did score some goals. We have played well in the 2 games, but we just have to work on our defence a little bit more.
I think we showed great resilience and we worked hard and we showed the fighting spirit, but it's just not enough in this international football.
We were content, as it were, in doing well without having focused on the real need to win, which we were going to have if we were going to qualify. We needed to do some quite drastic things to take the next steps. Frank himself felt that we needed to make some definitive moves to get to the stage where we'd win qualification.
That definitive move came on June 29. The FFA and Frank Farina parted ways.
From the board's point of view, we obviously think this decision is the right one. Our responsibility now is to do everything possible to ensure that Australia will be competing in Germany in 2006.
We did not spend a lot of time debating it. He saw that it was the right decision, and really it's not a resignation. We've simply brought forward the termination date of his contract.
Obviously the ideas at the top have changed, and you've got to respect that. And as I said, we don't want to disrupt things in terms of where the team's going.
If it wasn't for Frank Farina, I would have left as well, because as I said, I'm loyal, but Frankie talked me into staying on, because he believed that whoever they were going to get to replace him would be from overseas. The minimal time that we had to that new coach would have to work with the players was a major concern, and the fact that I knew the players that well, that Frank wanted me to stay on board.
After 6 years in the job, Frank Farina's tenure as coach will be remembered for some tremendous performances by the Australian team. Ultimately, though, the failure to qualify for the 2002 World Cup would be his greatest disappointment.
When it was announced that Frank Farina and we were parting ways, we were inundated from all over the world, from all sorts of people, with names of who was the coach that we had to have, and there were some pretty well-known names amongst those, and a number of agents purporting to act for some well-known coaches. One name that wasn't served up to us was that of Hiddink.
New Socceroos coach Guus Hiddink arrived with a reputation as a miracle worker after reaching the World Cup semi-finals with South Korea in 2002.
The appointment of Guus Hiddink is, we believe, the cornerstone of our World Cup effort and the best response we could make to our most urgent priority.
Coming here now with my past is not a guarantee for success. The only thing I can contribute with all my efforts is some knowledge, some experience, but at the end, the players, they have to do it.
I got asked to fly to Europe to an unknown destination to meet potential coaches, and I walked into a room in Eindhoven at Guus Hiddink's accountant's office. Basically, he said everything's fine, but I need to be sold or convinced that we can make it on the field, and I sold him. Sold him on the Australian job because I had the feeling this time that the players were mature enough and mentally ready for whatever task was put in front of them.
When all the players are fit, I think this team is very competitive, and I think when they can improve in their tactical way, we might have a chance to make the impossible possible.
Hiddink's first move was to cancel a scheduled international against Colombia in order to muster his troops for an intensive 5-day training camp in the Netherlands. The Dutch supercoach took the opportunity to assess an expanded 28-man squad working hard on the training ground while talking over tactical and technical matters behind closed doors.
It was immediately apparent that there was a chemistry on the one hand and a clear direction already in his mind.
He can connect with players straight away. You know, he sits at breakfast and he sits where he can see the whole room, and he just watches the mannerisms of the players and how they walk, how they talk, how they laugh, how they eat, and he can pick out nearly anything straight away from them to which players need a pat on the back, which one needs a kick up the backside, and which one needs to be smartened up a fair bit.
The players are working very disciplined because I think we make some special training sessions with special issues, and they are answering to what we want to compete on high international level.
Everybody's starting afresh and is looking to prove themselves to get themselves in the manager's starting 11. So training, as you can imagine, has been very competitive.
He likes the team like him. I mean, you could see every player is working very hard to please him.
Craig Moore and Harry Kewell were both missing due to injury as the Socceroos prepared to face the Solomon Islands in Sydney.
If you probably look at what he did from when he first come in to even Uruguay, he nearly dropped every player, except for probably Lucas, Brett Emerton. The rest of the players had some time on the bench, all got taken off, and they got pulled out of their comfort zone.
Hiddink, using all his guile and experience, was clearly making an impact.
I think it's a good thing, having depth in the team. Like a lot of players being in form and in the same position, so good headaches that a coach can have.
Places are up for grabs. Nobody's certain of a position now.
Star striker Mark Viduka was named captain as the fine-tuning began.
It sort of feels like coming into, first day at school, everybody's on an even sort of note and everybody's trying to impress.
We're down to the business end of the campaign with limited time between now and November for Gus to work with the players. The players have shown their commitment.
The competition's raised and the bar's raised, so we know that if we underperform that, he's going to replace us,
The Solomons too had a disrupted build-up. Just a month earlier, English coach Alan Gillett was replaced by Brazilian Ayrton Andrioli.
We know the task ahead. We know that is a huge difference, regardless if Australia call all the big names or if they use players from the National League. It's still a big gap, a big difference. What the Solomon Islands have on their sides is that for them this is the most important game of their lives. They never played a bigger game than this, and the other aspect is that they have nothing to lose.
It was all hands on deck, with Australia's European-based stars putting their club commitments aside to give Hiddink and the country their undivided attention. Over 14,000 fans turned out for the first leg of Oceania's final World Cup playoff on a wet night in Sydney. Hiddink surprisingly left Marco Bresciano and Vince Grella on the bench, but with Australia expected to win handsomely, he could afford to experiment. Mark Schwarzer was preferred in goal despite fierce competition from Željko Kalac, and John Aloisi got the nod up front. Australia took control of possession with Scott Chipperfield and Josip Skoko pushing from midfield. It seemed only a matter of time before the Socceroos got their reward. The Solomon Islands held firm, sometimes employing desperate measures off the line. "20 minutes passed and still the visitors resisted, while the Socceroos took their time to find a rhythm to match Hiddink's new tactical tune. One player who enjoyed a meteoric rise since the arrival of Hiddink is Jason Collina, the scorer of Australia's first goal.
Skoko just waiting for the opening. Chipperfield, plenty of time to tee up the cross. Goes Aloisi. Cahill with his back to goal, and then Collina! What about that? Jason Collina's first international goal. And right on the 20-minute mark, Australia have the lead.
He is no slouch. That is a lovely strike to the far post.
Well, how apt that the first goal of the Dutchman's reign should come from a man who plies his trade in the Netherlands. Great strike from Jason Collina, and Australia have the goal their territorial dominance has deserved.
Then, in the 36th minute, new captain Mark Viduka stepped up in a manner befitting one of Australia's most talented exports.
Towards Aloisi, on the head, what a goal! That is an absolutely fabulous strike by Mark Viduka. Just class. And only his fourth international goal. It's the first time he's ever played against a team from the Oceania region. And this is just brilliant.
He's turned to face the play. He's looking for the knockdown here, whether it comes from him, from his teammate or the opponent. On his toes, looking to react, and react he did. Went slightly behind him. What about that? The kids at home. Special stuff, but a very special player.
I had to field a few questions this week about his lack of goals for Australia. He's answered everybody with that strike. That's just a wonderful moment for Mark Viduka. Here's Skoko.
Nice.
Collina!
Beautiful.
Good stop.
That's better.
Good stop by the goalkeeper.
Viduka rounded off the first half with a characteristic header on the end of a fine cross from Josip Skoko.
Squawko's ball in, free header, 3-0. And it's a second goal for Mark Viduka. Well, isn't he enjoying his night as captain of the Socceroos?
Don't worry about the header, what about the ball? Squawko, good combination play on the right with Emerton. It's a free kick, found himself out wide. Gets it back here. That's a gorgeous ball. That really is. Turn the ankle, keep over it, and just punch it with accuracy. Speaking of which, accurate header.
The Islanders had to wait until the second half before they made an impression, with Henry Fa'arodo, who plays his club football in Australia's National League, giving Schwarzer a scare.
Good clearance by the goalkeeper. Here's Fa'arodo. Oh, and Mark Schwarzer was scrambling away towards his left-hand post.
It was at this point that the Solomons' defence finally buckled.
Oh, and he slipped. The goalkeeper has slipped, and it's a goal for Australia, and Tim Cahill has made it 4. Francis Arawafu, who had a pretty good night up till that moment, has dropped a howler. 4-0 Australia. Chipperfield. Fancy a strike and the goal by Scott Chipperfield. 5 for Australia. As with Tim Cahill before him, there'll be a wry smile on the face of Scott Chipperfield. The goalkeeper didn't exactly cover himself in glory with that shot from a long way out. Quite as sweet as the goal that got the draw in South Africa. As with Cahill, Chipperfield will take it, and it's 5 for the Socceroos. Towards Thompson, came off the Solomon defender. Cahill keeps it in play.
Lovely with those runs. Thompson loves the one to the near post.
Bounced off Viduka. Thompson creating some space for himself. Archie Thompson! Brilliant goal by the Melbourne victory striker. And the now customary celebration in honour of his newborn baby by the corner flag. Boxing Archie, deadly in the box, and Australia have 6.
You're right. That is a brilliant strike. Anyway, it's not brilliant defending. But here, he could have laid it back here for Bresciano, but he wants to score. So mucking about.
2 minutes of added time at the end of the allotted 90. Just one more goal would be nice for the home fans to go home happy. Oh, and they've got one. And it's another absolute shocker for the goalkeeper. Brett Emerton is on the score sheet. And Australia have 7. There's not much else to be said, Craig.
No.
And the final whistle goes. They're up and running in the Hiddink era. Socceroos are a step closer to Germany.
A resounding 7-0 victory, although Hiddink was far from convinced.
You have to consider the opponent. I'm very anxious, very curious to see how they play against very fast and very skillful strikers as well.
When you get a bunch of people or players that did not do anything for 12 months and try to put a team together in 3 weeks to play a team like full of full-time professional players that are used to this sort of a situation every day, playing in international football, it was always going to be an impossible task.
I'm disappointed, so as the boys, but like we got to be realistic, you know. Our preparation isn't that good. We've had the worst preparation ever, but like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the better team win, and it's a positive thing that we could match it for 20 minutes, and then just the lack of concentration that puts us down a bit.
Meantime, Hiddink was sweating on the fitness of 2 key players.
I'd like to have them Kugel and Moore as soon as possible fit, because both are outstanding players. I'm a little bit worried because they are not playing now for a long time, and we are in contact in the upcoming hours and days how far they are in their recovery, and if I can give any help for treatment somewhere in Europe, I will do that.
Arriving in Honiara, the Socceroos could have been forgiven for losing focus and taking time to enjoy the sights, with qualification for the next phase all but assured. But Hiddink demanded more for this historic encounter. It would be the last time Australia visited one of its Pacific neighbours as a member of the Oceania Football Confederation. In stifling afternoon heat, the locals were abuzz with almost childlike enthusiasm, flocking to the Lawson Tama Stadium hours before the 2 p.m. kickoff. For them, just getting to this stage was an achievement, while Australia had come to prepare, tactically and mentally, for the eventual showdown with the South Americans.
Over in Solomon Islands, he left Bresciano and Grella both on the bench here in Sydney, and a couple of the other players, and he said, okay, we see how they perform in 35-degree heat in Solomon Islands, where there won't be a good crowd, and you know, it's not such a big game to get up for. That's how I want to see these players mentally. He really gets inside players' heads.
Hiddink made 5 changes. Željko Kalac in goal, John McCain came into defence, Marco Bresciano and Vince Grella started in midfield, and Archie Thompson was the new man up front alongside captain Mark Viduka. After a sluggish start, the Socceroos went ahead on 17 minutes, with Vince Grella's pass finding Thompson all alone with only the keeper to beat. Australia dominated, but its persistent attacking raids often led to nothing. The visitors struggled to adapt in the energy-sapping conditions, although Thompson looked lively, eager to make most of his rare start. Scott Chipperfield was busy down the left flank, providing numerous crosses. Similarly, Jason Colina, on the opposite side, worked hard to impress the new boss, who seemed none too satisfied with the lacklustre first-half performance. Tim Cahill, renowned for his aerial prowess, could have and probably should have doubled Australia's lead after latching onto Bresciano's cross. But the Socceroos failed to find the target again as the first 45 minutes drew to a close. Cahill and Viduka were both substituted during the interval, making way for Ahmed Elrich and Luke Wiltshire. A change in tactics as well, with Thompson now the only recognised striker on the pitch. 3 minutes after the restart, a moment that almost cost Australia one of its key defenders. A penalty was awarded against Lucas Neal, who escaped with a yellow card. Anything worse, and he would have missed the next round of qualifiers. Kalac came to the rescue, and George Louis, lunging for the rebound, saw red for a late tackle on the giant keeper, who was also penalised for moving off his goal line too early. The spot kick was retaken, and this time Henry Fa'arodo made no mistake. Hiddink became agitated, but the Socceroos responded to the challenge. Colina's cross picked out Elrich, who again found himself in a promising position. Archie Thompson lasted the entire match in a display that would convince Hiddink to start him again in South America. In the 59th minute, Colina set off down the right, combining with Brett Emerton, who applied the finishing touch to a narrow 2-1 victory. The players had done their job. Or had they? Not all were convinced.
I'm pretty happy with the game. Considering all of our physical conditions, I think the game went reasonably well.
It's really difficult. I don't think you understand till you're actually out here, just to be breathing in the hot air and like obviously playing just the other night and the troubling, but there's no excuses. We didn't play the best, but the main thing was getting the result.
We knew it was going to be difficult with the circumstances and the weather and that, but there's no reason to go out and play so badly.
We played a little bit sloppy today, but we came to do a job and job's done really.
But Hiddink had the final say, and he wasn't happy.
I say when we play today like we did today, then it's a mission impossible. But we have to improve, and of course, that's why I have to relax a little bit and see what can be done in the upcoming time. But I'm speaking out of my heart, and I was disappointed about some situations.
I had a cork thigh as well from sitting on the bench next to him because he was hitting me all the time and he was saying we can't win nothing with this. But he was a master at what he did because he let you blokes send that story out to the players. He didn't say it. He used you media to send that story out. The players read it, and the players weren't happy with it. You really want to put everyone on notice.
One more chance to impress produced a comprehensive 5-0 win over Jamaica in London before Australia's date with destiny against the South Americans.
I think in the game we played some good football, and you know, it gave us a lot of confidence to know that we're starting to play together like a team.
Offensively, we're a lot stronger than what we were before. I think before, when we won the ball, we always want to go and score goals straight away, whereas now Gus has got us playing a little bit more with composure, keeping the ball a lot more, make the other team do a lot of the running.
Got a better understanding what the coach wants, the system he would like to play, so I think we're ready.
We look more solid as a unit, and that's important, and we'll see if we're tactically smart against the South Americans in November.
We had decided right at the beginning of 2005 that we needed to know all that we could about our potential opponents. There were 6 nations who could have been the 5th place nation. Brazil were already well out of it at the top of the table, and Bolivia at the bottom of the table, but really the other 8 were possible and 6 were likely. So we put together teams of scouts. We'd have 2 scouts going to each of the games on the qualification dates that the South Americans had. One would look at one team, another would look at another. They would provide film for us, they would provide their notes and their impressions, and it was enormously helpful. That was one of the investments we made. We had the slogan that we would leave no stone unturned on our road to Germany, and scouting was an obvious part of that. We left the logistical scouting, if you like, to the later part of the campaign when we'd got down to 3 or 4 potential nations. And we set up 2 alternatives. One was in the north of South America in case we were playing Colombia, and the other was in the south, if it was Chile, Paraguay or Uruguay. We intended to train in Argentina before the match, wherever it was out of those 3 countries.
The final standings in South America were finally decided on the 12th of October. Once again, Uruguay would be Australia's foe.
I was delighted. I'd seen enough, or done enough scouting on DVDs, and with the scouts that we had in South America, that any other nation would have been very difficult. Colombia, for example, if we'd gone to Barranquilla, would have been 44 degrees, 100% humidity. The scouts that we sent there said there were, outside the stadium there's a river with dead people floating in the river. Things like that, where it would have been very uncomfortable for the players to go.
Montevideo also held uncomfortable memories following the 2001 airport fiasco, when a group of Uruguayans did all they could to put Australia off its game.
Yeah, as soon as we landed for the first time in Uruguay, I mean, it was probably threatening as well. I mean, we had all the supporters there, always just not leaving us at peace. I mean, even at the hotels, just making noise, making it difficult for us. There was a few people at the airport who were just, I don't know, being silly, yeah. But even after that game, we were before that game, we were staying in the hotel, and the Uruguayan people were really embarrassed about that sort of that thing that happened there. They were very apologetic. The normal people in the streets, because they don't want their country to be shown in that sort of light.
We wanted to avoid any repetition of the incidents that happened back 4 years ago, but more importantly, we wanted the team to have the confidence that this was a totally different campaign, to see that it was done differently, to see that they had nothing to fear about our opponent, to understand that we were equal to the task.
You'd have had just as bad or worse fanatical crowds, wouldn't you, in Italy?
Well, our own supporters lately. I don't know, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but playing at this level is not easy. So a lot of the players are used to it, and we just got to stick together. I think that's an important thing of us sticking together and being a strong unit, and we should be okay.
Everyone keeps talking about how intimidating it is, but I think as players it's the type of environment you want to be in.
This time, however, it was entirely different. Australian authorities ran few risks as the team gathered in Buenos Aires as planned before flying to Montevideo. Craig Moore was still unavailable. Harry Kewell had resumed full training but was lacking match fitness, and Marco Bresciano picked up an ankle injury. Otherwise, the Socceroos had no complaints. The arrival in Montevideo was executed without any delays. Fans and the press were kept at a distance, and the players could start to concentrate on the job at hand. En route to the team hotel, just in case there were any doubts, they knew exactly what was facing them in this fiercely passionate football country. Security precautions included a decoy bus to catch troublemakers and the press off guard.
Not only the security, but the logistics of the bus being on time and the route we were going to take to the stadium and so on were properly organised, and it was careful planning.
As the team's arrival was carried out with military-like precision, there was trouble brewing in Montevideo. The mind game started, with Uruguay demanding a change in kick-off times and the referee.
It bothered us at FFA headquarters because we thought that it was inappropriate that one of the two teams in the match was trying to adjust what FIFA had decided in order to suit themselves. And so we took a strong view about it, but the view in the team was quite different. Gus Hiddink, his view and the view the team took was, we'll play at whatever time we're told and with whichever referees we're allotted, and it's not going to bother us. And so if there were mind games, our team was on top of them.
If you play a lot of mind games, I don't interfere that much because I'm focused just on my group and on the pitch. But when they are starting to do mind games, it can mean that they are a little bit uncertain, and I hope they are.
The Estadio Centenario. It is one of the world's classic football venues. Here, Uruguay defeated Argentina in the inaugural World Cup final in 1930. An intimidating place, even Brazil has only managed 2 wins in 20 visits. Hiddink had somewhat of a dilemma selecting his midfield combination, with Lucas Neal, Tim Cahill and Marco Bresciano carrying yellow cards from previous matches, meaning they would be suspended for the second leg if they received another.
Gus, can you tell us your starting lineup?
I can tell you, yeah, but I don't. Because, if you have seen, I don't have that many secrets, but tomorrow is the last session in the morning, and then officially I will announce the lineup to the players as well. And I'm not the type of guy who is first announcing it publicly and then to the guys. I think it's fair to them to make to the final lineup, although it's for they know already for 90%.
Leading into the game that day, I'd never been around a more relaxed atmosphere in pre-match meal where the players were just sitting around and joking and laughing, and they were just so calm about everything that I thought, well, one or two things is going to happen here. Either we're going to fire today or we're going to get smashed.
What's happened in the past, we don't need to bring up, and it's just motivation enough that we've been through it. Obviously wanting to qualify, so obviously it's always in the back of the minds, and especially the ones who have been around for a few times, so we'll be raring to go no matter what.
Chris came into my room morning of the game, and I said to him, "How are you, boss?" He said, "Yeah, I'm fine." I said, if you could sign off on a result now, what would it be? He said, "We have to win, we have to draw." I said, "On a bad result." He said, 1-0 loss. He said, "I'd sign now." From 2001, when the players walked on the field and they saw the 60,000 people there and screaming and booing, You could actually see fear in a few of their eyes in 2001. This time they had their headphones in with a smile on their face, and it was like, come on, bring it on.
Australia controlling huge parts of this game. Kuhl, Viduka almost into the path, and Viduka's shot takes a deflection, and it's another corner for Australia. It's Viduka, and a good save by Carini, and that was moving.
I think a mixed feeling, because we controlled first half rather completely. Second half we were playing a little bit too fast, the long ball, so we lost a little bit of control. But I think we dominated so far that we should have scored in the first half at least one goal. That was a pity.
I don't think over the top Perez have continued his run. Well, now Chipperfield's got to be careful here. Morales, the big target inside the penalty area from this free kick. Recorder's delivery. Oh, man, free at the far post, goal! Dario Rodriguez!
And there was the goal coming, and they are very strong in set pieces. We know Uruguay is strong in set pieces.
Well, Australia hadn't looked in any trouble at all until that moment.
I thought the last 15-20 minutes they tried to break our back over there, that they gave everything they could.
He was in behind the Australian defence. Socceroos in real trouble here. Morales, good stop by Mark Schwarzer.
Their coach made changes in an attacking sense to try and get that second goal. When they walked off the field, they walked off the field like losers.
Despite the loss, the Socceroos claimed a psychological victory, returning to Sydney aboard their own Qantas charter flight, first-class service all the way.
It's one thing I'll never forget, coming back to the airport and seeing a Qantas plane with Australian flags hanging off the side of it. It was like, you know, it was a true belief that everything had been done for us to succeed.
I don't think we realised at the time we put it together just how important it would be. It was part of leaving no stone unturned, but in fact, if you like, the charter flight was a boulder rather than a stone that was unturned, because it was so successful in achieving what we wanted to achieve. It was a huge positive when the players and the rest of us turned up at Montevideo Airport, and the big red tail with the flying kangaroo on it was there. We hadn't quite anticipated that would have the effect it had, and it was wonderful.
What we had on the plane, I ain't seen before. You know, and I mean, I didn't know what the medical terms for half the stuff they had. But you know, it was perfect from down to the massage. You know what I mean? We had like hour-long massages. You know what I mean? For a long flight, it was perfect.
In contrast, Uruguay arrived on a commercial flight with some players squeezed into economy class. Nevertheless, they put on a brave face, with Álvaro Recoba suggesting it was their divine right to be at the World Cup.
Como no podía ser de otra manera, cansados, pero muy bien de espíritu, muy bien de ánimo, y cuando pienso yo que cuando estás bien de la cabeza, el cuerpo funciona.
Nosotros creo que jugamos bastante bien allá. Teníamos que haber hecho algún gol más. Por cómo se dio el partido lo podíamos haber hecho, pero bueno, no se dio, así que bueno. Sabiendo seguramente de que no tenemos dos resultados, entonces hay que estar tranquilos.
No, Uruguay no va a salir a jugar atrás, porque sabemos que con un gol acá en Australia prácticamente definimos la clasificación. Australia sabe eso.
The Socceroos arrived looking refreshed and with no major injury concerns or suspensions. The stage was now set to make their dreams come true.
I believe Australia is behind the game. You know, I mean, the whole country is supporting us, wants us to succeed, wants to come and watch us. And, you know, things happen, that times arrive for certain things, and I think time has arrived for soccer.
I think the crowd in Sydney is going to back us, and it's going to just help the ball go in the back of the net by itself.
On November 16, 2005, over 82,000 fans flooded Sydney's Olympic Stadium like a sea of green and gold to witness history in the making. The situation had been reversed compared to 4 years earlier. This time, Australia had what many critics saw as an advantage to play the second decisive leg at home. The Socceroos had to score at least once in order to balance the ledger. Victory by a 2-goal margin was the ultimate target, and with away goals worth something extra, they could not afford to concede either. As they lined up for the national anthems, the Australian fans knew what was at stake, giving Uruguay a less than polite reception.
We were a bit embarrassed and a bit concerned when it happened because it's not normal, and we had been looked after pretty well in Uruguay and wanted to reciprocate. But on the other hand, we were reciprocating because I didn't hear a bar of the national anthem in Uruguay. There was absolutely no recognition from the Uruguayan crowd that there was an anthem being played until their own came on. So it was part of football, and it was a knowledgeable football crowd we had out there on the 16th of November. So whilst there was an element of embarrassment, it was insignificant in the greater scheme of things.
Fans from every national and cultural background, together for a common cause, rocked Sydney to the core with their own rendition of Advance Australia Fair.
Sight at Telstra Stadium. Who says this isn't a football country? It's a sea of green and gold, a few Uruguayan flags as well. You know, back in 1974, Australia beat Uruguay 2-0 in Sydney en route to a World Cup in Germany. Could the same thing happen again tonight? We're about to find out. Cross your fingers, your toes, have your worry beats to hand. This is going to be a heck of a ride.
The Uruguayans are masters under pressure, something they live and breathe on their own football fields back home and with their various clubs in Europe. Early on, a touch of gamesmanship, complaints about the ball set the tone for what was going to be a long night of drama.
It's Guillermo Rodriguez, one of two Rodriguezes on the park tonight. And the first free kick has gone Uruguay's way. To deliver. Oh, and it bounced off Mark Schwarzer. An early scare for Australia. He is the danger from any sort of range. We saw that on Saturday night in Montevideo. He was a good 30-35 metres out there, but he can hit them from any sort of range.
That's where he's so dangerous. Mark Schwarzer just trying to organise his defence. While you're doing that, to maintain concentration, so he'll have a go from anywhere. Rakoba, we've seen him hit them as well.
Now Varela has slipped his marker. Up to ground rather quickly there.
This is danger signs. Exact same situation from the first leg.
It's almost the same spot. It's Rakoba to deliver. Schwarzer would have known too much about that one. been deflected behind. Another Uruguayan corner.
It's a great defensive header from Tony Popovic.
Another corner for Uruguay. Again, lots of movement. Oh, and Schwarzer didn't get there. And it was Diego Lugano, I think, who got the header, or maybe even came off his shoulder. Flag had gone up in any case. Australia just need to settle down a bit here. That's a good ball. Popovic had stayed up for the corner. And a shot from long range from Tony Vidmar. Forcing the save out of Carini.
There were encouraging signs as the Socceroos slowly grew in stature. Tony Vidmar, in his fourth and final campaign to qualify for the World Cup, was determined to bow out a winner. Jason Collina also tried his luck from long range, having retained his place in midfield alongside two newcomers. Tim Cahill and Marco Bresciano started at the expense of Archie Thompson and Harry Kewell.
Duca just leaning off. Here's a chance for Everton. Collina! Beaten away by Fabio Carini. Still in play?
Still.
Corner ball.
That is good football. And he can hit them from there, Jason Collina.
For Uruguay, all eyes were on Alvaro Recoba, an ever-present danger with his silky skills and sometimes clinical left foot.
Recoba, he's nicked the ball away from Vidmar. It's Recoba! Could have scored and possibly should have scored, and maybe put the tie beyond Australia's reach, and Recoba knows it. Australia have got out of jail there, Craig.
Well, we need some luck. We always need luck in these big games. Tell you what, we haven't had a tremendous amount in the last 7 campaigns. Maybe we're due. Maybe that's a sign for Australia.
Garno leading into Mark Viduka. Now another free kick for Marco Bresciano to deliver. A lot of set pieces so far in this game for both teams. Australia make one count. Cahill was lurking on the far post. Good claim though by Fabian Carini. Oh, and a bit of afters too. Now, Guillermo Rodriguez was the man who shoved Cahill in the face there.
Midway through the first half, as they battled to assert their physical superiority, came a defining moment that would change the complexion of Australia's tactical approach. In the 28th minute, Tony Popovic stopped Recoba with a blatant elbow, which earned him a yellow card. Then Hiddink made his move.
The Popovic substitution was always going to happen around that time. It may have come on about 5 minutes earlier because he got the yellow card, but it was all about keeping Harry out of the initial 30 minutes. Who said that one of his sayings to me was, "You never win a game in the first 30 minutes. These type of games, you only can lose them." He said, so therefore we play extra safe and we play with an extra defender.
Here you have it, Tony Popovic making way. It's a tactical switch. Kewell looks to go to the left. Keep an eye on that. Good adjustment by Hiddink. That's what he's here for.
There's a few coaches that read a game as well as Hiddink. Here is Kewell. His first touch, Chipperfield finding Cahill. Look how tight the space is. Here's Harry Kewell.
It's still there.
And it's in!
Still there!
Australia have scored! Marco Bresciano! 33 minutes played and Telstra Stadium erupts. Australia are level. What a moment! And Harry Kewell's involvement and impact is immediate.
And it was brilliant. It's a brilliant tactical switch by Hiddink. Read what Australia needed. Needed number 10, H. Kewell. Great introduction from Kewell. Beautiful combination play. Getting numbers there.
What about that for a finish too by Marco Bresciano? Cool as you like.
Marco Bresciano's reaction to it was just superb. The way he stood, statuesque, for as long as his teammates would allow him. Typified the team a bit. We've come of age. It was a great moment.
Bresciano had had the ankle injury that required 5 needles to get him on the field. He was that desperate to play. And the goal can be contributed a bit to, as well, Harry's combination with Mark Viduka at Leeds. You'd seen them do that type of thing so many times where the ball's played in and Harry runs off him. And as we said to Harry after the game, it's the best missed kick of your life.
That's what they thought about it in Melbourne as well. Great stuff.
History books will note Kuhl's early introduction as a masterstroke by Hiddink. It would prove to be the turning point. His speed and attacking flair tormented Uruguay with penetrating runs down the left flank. It gave Australia fresh impetus and options to push forward in search of that all-important goal.
There is the half-time whistle. A very eventful first half. And it's the Australian fans who are on their feet at the break.
Uruguay continued the way it started as the second half got underway.
It's vital the Socceroos do not concede after having worked so hard to get their noses in front of this game. Koba's delivery, all free header and over the top by Morales.
Giant striker Richard Morales, who scored 2 crucial goals against Australia in the last campaign, was almost gifted an equaliser. It was looking more and more like Australia's night.
He works it out to Chipperfield. Kuhl. Step over and another. Into the right foot. Oh, and a shot by Tim Cahill! Just wide of the post, and it took a deflection too.
He's taken a hit on the ankle as well. It's always dangerous there. Tell you what, I think it was Montero. He's always reading the play beautifully. As soon as he cut back, Montero's coming forward. He's got a foot in Cahill's ankle.
Polina with a little dink in towards Viduka. Bresciano! Could have been, maybe should have been. It was pretty high for Marco Bresciano. Pass finding Cahill. Now Chipperfield. Australia trying to build up a head of steam again. This man's the key. Harry Kuhl. It's very deep. Cahill! So it's gone already.
We know he can leap. He's got up there and he's pulled it off his head.
Eventually, though, Uruguay went to the bench, with coach Jorge Fossati in a shock move, removing the man Australia feared most.
Uruguay can make their change, and it's, as you suspected, Craig, it's the danger man.
He's gone. Well.
When they took Recoba off, I felt that it was ours. Me personally, as a coach, I'd never take Recoba off, even if I stick him out in the left wing and say, don't move, wait till we get 3 kicks around the box, because he can put one in, or his corners, and you saw how lethal they were. And from the video analysis that I did out of 18 games, they'd scored something like 13 or 14 goals off his 3 kicks, or he'd been part of. So you could see how much it had fatigued him, and how much they were sort of starting to get under the pump a bit fitness-wise.
Then the aging legs of hard-tackling defender Paulo Montero gave way. Injury forced him off 10 minutes from time.
Which is Paulo Montero just have pulled a muscle there, tweaked a hamstring. He pulled up as soon as he got to the ball. That's a real worry for Jorge Fossati.
It's gone, he's off.
It wasn't looking good for the visitors, as Australia gave everything it had to try and close out the match within the 90 minutes of regulation time.
Now Harry Kuhl, in round the back, Kuhl shot! Oh, Carini wasn't convincing. He's gotten away with it.
It's a good snapshot on the right.
Shade over 5 minutes to go. Bresciano's delivery. When he comes, doesn't get there. Here's Scott Chipperfield, takes a touch, just couldn't get the shot away. Still the danger not averted for Uruguay. Colina chips it in. Viduka's header. Cahill goes after it. Dead ball is the end result.
Uruguay survived. It's nothing less than what you might expect from a battle-hardened side that survived 18 rounds in South America, the most demanding qualification path in the world.
Well, there it is, the final whistle. Australia have won on the night by 1-0, but it's all square on aggregate. So we're going to be in extra time, extra half hour, and then, if necessary, penalties. Here we go, first period of extra time. 15 minutes each way, no golden goal. Away goals would count double. Michelo Rodriguez. Salajeta. Ankle tap by Neil. Free kick's taken quickly. Varela. Now Varela. Oh, just flies past the post.
I'm sure it was a foul from Lucas Neal. He was pretty hard done by, actually.
For Grella. Now this is a real chance for Uruguay. Round the back of Lucas Neal, into the near post, beaten away by the Australian defence.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant defending. Brilliant defending.
Kuhl provides them with this free kick. Again, crowd rises. Lanty up from the back. It's a deep one towards Aloisi. On the volley. Blocked by the Uruguayans again. And the whistle goes. The end of the first period of extra time. And yet again, the roar, Craig, remains in the throats of the Australian fans.
With a penalty shootout fast approaching, the fans lifted again on this emotional roller coaster ride, while Hiddink experience came to the fore. The calmest man out there projected an air of composure that seemed to rub off on his players.
Chances have been pretty few and far between, certainly from inside the box. Cahill. Very short. Cahill goes down the line. Good ball. Aloisi. Kuhl and Viduka wait in the middle. Scocco drills it in. Oh, real chance for Viduka, and credit to Diego Lugano.
It's world class. It's world class defending. It's quite outstanding. It's a great ball, but he read it all the way. Viduka took him out of the space. He knew.
Garcia's ball in.
Lucas Neal. You've got to get to it.
Morales. Oh, Morales! Oh, a metre or two wide of the post. Oh dear.
That's just tight legs, that.
You can hardly stand the tension.
This is where it's difficult. You get the ball out. As soon as it's delivered back in, you've got to be close to people. Should have had someone near him.
Looks like the dreaded shootout. There it is. Penalty kicks will decide a place in World Cup 2006. Australia's destiny will be from 11 metres in the capable hands, we hope, of Mark Schwarzer.
Once the penalty shootout was decided, the players knew which penalty they were going to take. We practiced penalties the night before. At the end, where we ended up taking the penalty shootout, we wanted to know where the fanatics were going to be sitting, because we wanted to do it down their end, because they would make more of the noise. So we knew it was going to be down that end. We practiced down that end. We made the players individually walk up. We had the players in line on a bit of paper in my pocket who was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bresciano was down for number 3, and he got replaced. I think it was about 10 minutes before time, with his ankle gave way on him. So then I had to find a new number 3, and you know, I went out to the other 5 players who were not taking a penalty. I said, come on, one of you have to step up, take a penalty. So I don't put pressure on them. You see which one sort of volunteers or has the confidence to get up and take it. And the first one I asked was Josip Skoko. And Skoko said to me, he said, oh, come on, Arnie, you know, I've only just come on, I haven't touched the ball yet. He said, I really don't fancy it. I said, okay, fine. Then I went to Vinnie Grella, who I thought was outstanding in both games. I said, Vinnie, I said, you fancy taking a pen? He said, yeah, mate. He said, I'll take one after Schwarzer takes one. So that was 2 down. And then I went to Jason Chelina, and Jay said, oh, I've never taken a penalty in my life. So it's 3, and I'm thinking, oh, God, I might have to take one myself, and I'm not taking it. And Tony Vidmar just said, I'll take one. He said, I took one the other week. He said, I'll get one. And I really looked at that as it was his payback turn. You know, a lot of people remember the picture that was in the Sydney newspaper here, front page, Tony walking off in tears over in Uruguay. It was his redemption. He really took that in his own hands, and he said, I'm going to get it back now.
Well, it's Harry Kewell who's going to go first for the Socceroos.
The feeling at home with 82,000 Aussies, you know, because when you make that walk, it's a long walk. And I knew that the keepers were going to, you know, try to do something because they were talking to each other in the ref. And I just got the ball and I just started playing it between my feet just to get my legs loose and all that because of the fatigue and all that. But I knew what I was going to do and how I'd do it and that. And you just got to be confident.
If you thought 90 minutes in extra time was drama, you ain't seen nothing yet, folks. Here we go. It's Harry Kewell against Fabian Carini. First penalty, Australia.
Beautiful.
Goal. Beautifully put away by Harry Kewell.
Sheer class, Harry. Sheer class.
Now it was Mark Schwarzer's turn, with the knowledge he had saved Australia once before in a penalty shootout in a 1993 World Cup qualifier against Canada.
Rodriguez against Mark Schwarzer. Saved by Schwarzer! He's done it again! In the shootout, Mark Schwarzer is the hero for Australia.
It's a massive save. It's huge. It is huge. He stood his ground beautifully. I liked it when Rodriguez stunted his run, not once but twice. Schwarzer's fast off his line, he's mobile. He didn't move early, he waited for the kick.
Next up is Lucas Neal, who's had a great game. It's Neal. It's 2-0. Australia 2-0 up in the shootout. And Lucas Neal was the calmest man on the pitch there. Pressure, what pressure? And here's Gustavo Varela. Another save from Schwarzer, and Australia are nearly there. It's Varela. Oh, it's just underneath Schwarzer.
It's too good. Again, he held his ground, Schwarzer. He's reading them, he's not going early. Tony Vidmar. What a way to cap off a memorable career.
I played with Tony in Europe, never seen him take a penalty, ever. And I couldn't watch his, to be honest.
Drawn 14 years experience as a pro. Surely he's never had a kick as important as this.
Just pick your spot.
Come on, Tony. It's Vidmar.
Beautiful.
It's beautifully put
Good
away.
on your son.
3-1, Australia in the shootout. And they're edging closer to the World Cup.
He's the hero. Tony Vidmar is the hero tonight.
Fabian Stoyanov against Mark Schwarzer. Here we go. Beautifully tucked away by Stoyanov.
Yeah.
3-2.
Mark Viduka, and rightly so.
He's played a captain's role, Mark Viduka. Graham Arnold can't look. Viduka. Oh, he's put it wide. Would you believe it?
We rehearsed it that well that Viduka did exactly the same thing the night before. The same penalty, missed exactly the same.
It's been a great captain. Now up to Mark Schwarzer. This would be a great one to save. A great one to save.
Schwarzer just perhaps a little mind game with Salajeta, asking whether the ball was on the spot. Here is Salajeta. Oh,
Big
great save again by Schwarzer!
It's a huge save!
Wonderful save!
It's as big as we've ever seen in Australia. I'm sorry it is. It's as big as we've ever seen under pressure. It's the sort of heart that you need to make World Cups. Mark Schwarzer, you are a champion.
There's a wonderful photo I've got at home of when Mark Schwarzer saves Alieta's penalty. That the other 9 boys on halfway are jumping, and Johnny's already got his head down and walking. He knew what he had to do.
That means that if John Aloisi can score this goal, Australia will be there.
Are you sure?
I'm trying to do my maths. I can hardly.
4-2.
I can hardly.
He wins it for us, John.
Here's Aloisi for a place in the World Cup.
For us.
He scored! Australia have done it!
John! Come on!
John Aloisi, the Confederations Cup hero, has done it in the biggest game of all.
Come on, Australia! Johnny Warren!
At last, at long last, 31 years, 4 months and 24 days have passed since Australia ended its campaign at the '74 World Cup. And now, finally, belatedly, wonderfully and joyfully, Australia is back on the biggest stage.
Yeah, it's been three campaigns of mine, and I played with some great players that never made the World Cup. And I'm just happy, you know, at my age that I finally made it. For Tony Vidma, that's 35. For Zelko Kalas, for Swartzy, for all those guys that are getting on now, we're finally going to go to the World Cup.
My first dream as a young player was to play in the World Cup for my country, and I'm a very lucky person, and I'll make sure that I honour the shirt every game I play.
This was it. It was now or never, and yeah, unbelievable.
Used to picking our favourite team in the World Cup and hoping they do well. Now it's going to be Australia. It's something that you dream or you love to do, and now we're there.
We had a great captain there tonight, leading the front line. He was all up there by himself, and we had like the red arrows flying in behind him and that. So it was great. And as you say, Lucas was a rock. So was Vinny. Popper was brilliant as well. And as you say, we had the main man in goal because he won us the game in the end.
Obviously, the last time we made it, I was 2 years old, and I don't remember any of it. I grew up watching, obviously other teams and supporting other teams at the World Cup, and this time around, we're going, and that's all that matters.
I'm proud of all the boys and very happy for them after 32 years to be back on the world stage. Not just the 13 or the 14 from today, but also the guys somewhere on the bench and had played the other games. That's why I'm very proud the way the guys were so eager to get on this huge and big, almost impossible target.
Something that I dreamed of ever since I played the game, and unfortunately I never made it as a player, but I've made it the next best thing as a coach. And I just felt really good, really happy for the players and all the good people involved in the game who've been through the hard times. The players have put so much effort into it, and some people criticise their dedication to the Australian shirt, but I can tell you they're 100% committed, these guys. And I actually felt it would have been a crime if this group of players had never been at a World Cup.
Tonight was the start of it, and it's only going to get bigger.
Oh, and wearing the green and gold in the World Cup, I mean, I can't, thank God.
mission had been accomplished. The lid had come off, and the pressure of 32 years of frustration had been released. People celebrated until the early hours of the morning, as Australian sport, in a sense, had come of age. It was the end of the road, back to Germany, a place of beauty, if only because it is there that a longing wish for this nation to be a sporting great, or even an equal, can finally be realized.